Let's talk about Olmec civilization. The Olmec were people who lived in the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, which is now Mexico. I have traveled through the Olmec region for decades now. I have visited every Olmec city I can, including the tiny little museums that hold the artifacts in those local regions. So I have a very good grip on the actual locations of Olmec sites and art. In fact, I'm just completing now a new course for the great courses on the Olmec, and hopefully that'll be out in the summer. But briefly here, let's talk a little bit about who the Olmec were. The Olmec are one of the oldest, if not the oldest civilization in all of what we call Meso-America. And they thrill people because of the scale and sophistication of the art that they made. Their most famous pieces are the giant heads. We call them the colossal heads. We have 17 of them, and the smallest of them is 4 tons, and the biggest is almost 50 tons. They're huge, and their faces are so naturalistic, very evocative. They also made a lot of other megalithic art. It was all out of basalt, and oftentimes they drug this basalt from a volcano as much as 70 kilometers away to their cities. So the scale and sophistication of their art is something that intrigues me for sure, and a lot of the world. Something that we don't talk about enough about the Olmec, though, is the size of their cities. Now, starting at about as early as 1800 BCE, we have the Olmec. And they go up to about 500 BC, and then blip, they're gone. That end of the Olmec is complicated and interesting as well, and I'll do a whole nother video dedicated to what ended Olmec civilization. And Mesoamerica moves on with cultures like the Maya and the Aztec and Teotihuacan. But the Olmec, right in the middle of these swamp lands in Mexico, created giant earthen platforms. And when I say giant, I mean huge. They often stood at least 10 meters tall, but they stretched for over a kilometer. So just think about that for a minute. 10 meters tall, which is 30 feet, and a whole kilometer long. And people over 2,000 years ago built not just one of them, but actually, we know there are hundreds of Olmec platforms like this. Most of them are oriented slightly off north-south, which is still somewhat of a mystery to us as to why those orientations, but the scale is outrageous. The Olmec are often referred to as Mesoamerica's mother culture, indicating that they started everything that was civilization that would happen for the next 2,000 years in the Olmec and wider Mesoamerican regions. That's not exactly true anymore. We see their evolution as kind of a co-evolution, sharing information and materials back and forth between their neighbors. The Maya were giving them lots of jade and obsidian. And the Maya are actually the ones that started pottery, not the Olmec. The Olmec got that from the Maya. They were also trading with Oaxaca and with the Valley of Mexico. And so there was an interaction. The funny thing about the Olmec area living in this swamp is that they had no good stone materials. So their big basalt monuments came from far away on a volcano. Their obsidian and their jade came from far away to the east. Their hematite came from far away to the west. So they didn't really start all of these material uses and cultures. But wait a second, there is something that they did do. They seem to have started the first organized religions in Mesoamerica. They would take these raw materials like hematite and jade, and they'd import it into the Olmec area, and then they'd carve it with all sorts of religious iconography, and then they'd export it back to the same neighbors they got the raw material from. We can see that progression happening over time and religion beginning to take hold in these other places in a very Olmec fashion. There are some very key parts of Olmec religion. We see them again and again, symbolically indicating a three-tiered cosmos, being the heavens, the world of men, and the underworld. We also see them transforming into jaguars. In fact, there's a whole jaguar transformer cult that people talk about when it comes to the Olmec. And we see not just adults, but babies transforming into jaguars, which means it's like early shamanism, where shamans can transform into animals. All of those notions may well have been there in Mesoamerica before the Olmec, but the Olmec created this iconography and ideology to spread to the rest of Mesoamerica. The religions that we see going forward all have a root iconographically in what the Olmec started. So, in this regard, if the Olmec are the ones that really formalized religion and then they spread it throughout Mesoamerica via these iconographic symbols that they carve in stone and on pottery. So, what we have are the Olmec. What they were exporting was religion. They were importing raw materials, but they were exporting it with the symbols of this new religion, and it worked. Mesoamerica became more and more religious after their continual contact with the Olmec. That really makes the Olmec, in other words, Mesoamerica's first proselytizers. Can you imagine? An Olmec walks up to a typical Maya hut, they knock on the door, and they say, "Excuse me, sir, have you heard about our Lord and Savior Tlaloc?" Thanks for watching. If you liked that, here are 2 other videos that you might like as well. Please feel free to ask me questions down below in the comments, and I will answer all of those the best I can, and I'll pick a few for a monthly answer, a long form answer in a video. So, thanks.